What's up, my lovelies? Welcome to another video. I'm sorry that I've been gone for so long, okay? Best books of 2025 and my hopeful... Hello. I want to share with you guys my best books that I read in 2025 and my 2026 hopefuls. Starting off with the total number of books that I read in 2025. I read 40 books in 2025. For somebody with an incredibly busy life, life is constantly changing and kind of always on the go and things like that, I will say 40 is impressive for me, and I hate to say it, but a little more realistic. There's nothing wrong with wanting a super high reading goal, but just I want you guys to know that you shouldn't feel any pressure, because it's okay to read at your own pace, and 40 this year was my pace. My goal for 2026 is 50, so I'm hoping to kind of steadily go up, because my original goal for 25 was to read 30 books, and I read 10 over that. So now I'm trying to see if I can kind of push myself to read 10 more than that and kind of gradually work my way up as somebody who is definitely a mood reader. Starting off, these are the books that I read in 2025. This is just a little fable breakdown. Take with it what you will. First off, take a look at the nails. They match so perfectly. Guys, this is real pearl. I got it at a fan expo. Like, are you kidding me? So gorge. So gorge. Beautiful ring on this finger. A beautiful ring on this finger. Anyway, I have to share my most favorite read that I read, A Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry was. I was transformed. I feel like this book had absolutely everything, not only as a reader, but as an author. I appreciated it so much as a first-time author, as somebody who was learning how to write and things like that. I appreciated it a lot. Also, what I loved so much is that there was little stories in between, and that the book was not about the romance plot that was happening. It almost felt like the romance was a subplot. Like, it was still in it and it was still a part of it, but the actual story, getting a story within the story, like after chapters there would be a story, that was so meaningful. And that writing was honestly great, because I'll be honest, funny story, her book right before this, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's a good book, but I wasn't super connected with it like I usually am with all Emily Henry books. I loved it. That was absolutely my number one read. Staying strong with my two favorite romance authors, I will say that my next favorite read of this year was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. These two authors are the only two that I'm like, I'm watching their every move. I'm watching every book they're coming out with. Like, I'm loving it. What I loved about Say You'll Remember Me is the subplot about health, about emotional well-being and mental well-being, physical well-being, and how all those things really tie together, you know, helping her mom have a life after this diagnosis. And I really appreciated that, and it made me want to seek out more media, kind of more health-based. I have Crohn's disease, as I'm sure you guys know, but if you don't know, I have an ileostomy bag, and basically what that means is because of my condition, I do not have my large intestine at all, and so I suffer on the daily with all of these complications, and with just knowing that I'm going to be sick forever. And I've grown so much, but I'm starting to now absorb media that kind of speaks to the child in me of when I was diagnosed. You know, when I was diagnosed, you know, I was in high school and I was heavily made fun of for losing all of my hair and, you know, having feeding tubes and things like that. So I've now started to kind of absorb more media about just loving yourself in every form. And honestly, Say You'll Remember Me was great. It had the funny, and it had the heartbreaking, and it had the happy and sad, and I really appreciated it as somebody with a chronic illness. I would be an absolute crazy person if I did not mention the very books that got me into fantasy. ACOTAR. Okay. I understand that it's not a lot of people's cup of tea, and I was actually surprised, because honestly, I'll just be so thrilled. The main reason that I kind of boycotted it for so long was because of how obsessed everybody was with it. And when people are so obsessed with a certain book, it more often than not contains something that I don't really kind of, you know, want to read. I took a chance on ACOTAR, and I'm so happy that I did, because really prior to that, my only experience with fantasy was like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, things like that. I think it was so powerful to read as a woman, and also the expectations of love and what strength really means. Strength comes in so many different forms, and to just be thrown into this world of fae as a human and having to, you know, be strong for yourself when you have no powers or anything like that. I loved it. Again, I read it in audiobook format, which I think helped me a lot because it was a whole new world. I'd only ever read romance before that. And so I think it shows how much my love for fantasy has grown because I now have one bookshelf that is just fantasy. I've really fallen in love with the whole fantasy genre, and honestly, I could talk about the ACOTAR books as a video itself. I have so much to say about what it teaches young women and what it taught me, which then leads me into my next kind of controversial take, which is Lightlark. Lightlark is definitely not my most favorite book that I've ever read, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed what the author did with the story. I really enjoyed the world building, and also just it had great aesthetics to me. I loved the aesthetics of Lightlark. It's what originally stood out to me about the book, but I will say I did not like Lightlark as much as I liked Nightbane. Nightbane is the second book in the series, and I loved that one. I have not read further just because, again, I'm a mood reader, and so I hopped on over to the next set of books that was going to make me happy. Another book that I read definitely more so towards the end of the year was Fake Skating by Lynn Painter. I read this book when I was kind of at the beginning of my writing journey, whenever I started to write my novel this year. One of the people that I paid the most attention to was Lynn Painter. I even had a full shelf for about like 2 months. I had a full shelf that was just dedicated to YA books, and I like just read YA books because I wanted to get familiar with that kind of writing style because it's the genre in which I'm writing my novel and everything like that. I loved Fake Skating. It was just fun. I can't really remember specific things that stood out to me. I mean, I loved how down bad he was, but in a very respectful way and in a way of still fighting and grappling with, again, very real themes. And Painter, Abby, and Emily, I love them because I don't always feel like I'm reading a romance novel when I'm reading their book. I feel like I'm almost reading contemporary fiction. I'm almost reading something where romance is just intertwined, but there's this really rich story. You can go chapters and chapters without getting an ounce of romance because there's this really rich story that's happening. So I just love her. Did I read this year? In April, I was really sick, and this is actually right before my ileostomy surgery, and I came across a book that all of Book Talk was talking about, and it was called First Time Caller. I was definitely in a period of wanting to read books that like weren't super popular by Book Talk, and you know, I want to read the books that I like and yada yada yada. But I picked up First Time Caller. Walmart had a little special edition. It was like purple and white or something like that. And I picked it up, and it was one of the only books this year that I like speed read. I read this book. I got over halfway through in one night. I just read and read and read till I literally couldn't think regular thoughts anymore. And then the next day I came back and finished the book, and it was so good. It was so cute, and it felt so rom-com, you know? It was so cute, delicious, gorgykins. Now I want to talk about my 2026 hopefuls. My biggest 2026 hopefuls is these books right here. Well, it would also be to read the Studying and Drowning kind of, not trilogy because it's like a 1.5, but you know, kind of duology thing, you know. I have a lot of summer books I would like to read, one of them being Summer in the City by Alex Esther. Esther? I usually say Esther. I don't know what it is, but that's what I say. I would also love to finish the Lightlark series, but also this year I want to get better at just reading one-off books. I don't want to start a lot of series and things like that, especially because I already have like Hunger Games on my plate and stuff. So I want to be able to read some books that can just kind of be standalones. Please let me know what some of your favorite books were, and also what are some of your hopefuls for this year. I've missed you guys, and I love you guys so dearly, and I cannot wait to see what we do with this year. Love ya. Kisses. Bye.